Hello to all my wonderful students, subscribers, disciples. This is your Master GongSun. In today's video, I will be making a podcast-like episode about my first supernatural encounter and how it actually led to my spiritual development and turning to the Tao and becoming ordained as a Taoist priest. So, this is a ghost story, actually. Are you ready? It is a little bit scary, just to warn you right now. Okay. But it's really important because without this incident, I never would have become more spiritually curious, and as a result, I put in some work and became spiritually developed and got ordained as a Taoist priest. Okay, let me begin. I'll give you some background context and I'll set up the story so that everything makes more sense. So, a long time ago, many years ago, I was visiting a friend in a Southeast Asian country. I won't say which one, just to keep and protect anonymity and privacy. But let's just say this, it's a very haunted country. It's actually the most haunted country I had ever been to because of what happened in its past. All right, in the rural part of this country, everyone keeps dogs. My friend told me it is because that dogs can see ghosts, spirits, and other supernatural creatures that humans cannot easily see. So because of this unique ability of dogs, rural people keep dogs as house pets and guard dogs to ward off evil spirits and protect the inhabitants of the house. Now, my friend lived in a very remote part of this country, so the closest big city with over like 20 or 30,000 people was actually over an hour away. So we were so remote that there were no public streetlights at night. So if you have to wander around after sunset and you don't have a flashlight on you, well, then you're flat out of luck. Now, one night I was in my room when I heard the family dog, rather, bark at 11 p.m. Now, if you understand dogs, they bark only if they see something unfamiliar. So if they see something or someone familiar and friendly and safe, they would not bark, right? Any pet lover would know this. So I am a very curious person by nature. So every time the dog barked, I would actually leave my room to investigate. So I was staying on the second floor of a rustic house, so the moment I heard the dog bark, I picked up my flashlight and stepped out onto the porch. It was pitch black because of the lack of streetlights. So I shone the flashlight at the dog and then at what he was barking at. Turned out he was just barking at a passerby who was just walking past our locked gates. Thinking nothing of it, I returned to my room to work on my computer some more. An hour later, at midnight, the dog barked again. Curious, I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out onto the porch again. I expected the dog to be barking at a passerby again, but this time the dog was standing near the fence that divided our house from the neighbors. The dog was barking at something on the neighbor's side of the fence. So I said in the local language, "Gu, what are you doing?" Gu was the dog's name. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years later, but this is a very lovely dog. I'll never forget how cute he was. Every time I put my hand near his head, he would arch his or tilt his head back so I can pat him on the head. Anyway, I will not hold you in suspense anymore. So I said to the dog, "Goo, what are you doing?" The dog turned to look at me with a friendly expression for a few seconds, and then he returned to barking at the figure. And this figure is what I could not fathom what it was. This is what triggered and launched my entire exploration and journey into spirituality. Now, my curiosity fully piqued. I shone the flashlight onto the figure that the dog was barking at. What I saw defied explanation. I still can't be 100% certain of what it was, even to this day, but I'll do my best to describe it to you. Trapped in between a tractor on the neighbor's side of the fence and our fence. So imagine this, like it was on the neighbor's side and it was stuck in between a tractor on its right and the fence on its left. The figure was standing in a position that was at 45-degree angle. So this meant I could only see its profile. It was a humanoid figure with the same proportion as a man. So it had the outline of a face and a torso and a lower body. Its upper body was wrapped entirely in a blue cloth. Its lower body was wrapped entirely in a white cloth. So because it was wrapped in a cloth, I could not really see the eyes and the face clearly, but what I could see was the outline or the bumps of a nose and cheekbones and a mouth underneath the blue cloth. So imagine if a man just wrapped his head in a blue cloth and then he was standing just like 10 meters away from you, 5 to 10 meters away, standing at an angle. You can make out the faint outline of his body and his features, but you can't really see his face clearly. Okay, moving on. To me, it looked like a department store mannequin, but unlike a mannequin, I got the distinct feeling that it was alive. Now, when you're a human and you're standing out in the pitch darkness of the countryside at midnight, when someone shines a light on your face, wouldn't you turn to see the source of the light? But this creature did not. This creature pretended as though I did not exist. In other words, it was ignoring me. So I didn't even feel like I was bothering him. It felt like that, rather, it felt like that I was bothering him, but he wasn't bothering me. My first reaction was complete bewilderment. What the hell was that thing? I remember thinking. Now, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol, and I don't take any mind-altering substances. I was in a completely sober state of mind. And it definitely was not a dream because I never sleep that early. I usually work on my computer till well past midnight, 2 or 3 a.m. So I was baffled. Thinking I was hallucinating, I turned off the flashlight and then waited a few seconds. At that point, the dog stopped barking and returned to the garage where he normally sleeps. So now the dog has left. So imagine the scene here. It's me and I will call it the ghost. For the second time, I turned on the flashlight at that location, expecting it to have already disappeared. But it had not disappeared. It was still there, standing at exactly the same 45-degree angle with its profile facing me. Puzzled, I racked my brain, trying to figure out what it was. It did not seem to be malicious. In fact, it felt like it was ignoring me. I turned off the flashlight again. It was now completely dark. I decided I would try one more time. I turned on the flashlight, but this time I expected it to be there again, because if it hadn't disappeared yet, why would it on the third try? And I was right, there it was again. At that point, I began to feel scared. Not because it was menacing, but because of the mystery, because I couldn't figure out what it was. It's human nature to be fearful of the unknown, after all, right? So fear took over, and I decided to go back into my room. I would not venture out that night again. So the next morning, I told my friend all about what I had seen, and he brushed it off as very normal. His reaction was very matter of fact. He said, "So you saw a ghost?" As though he said it as though he were announcing that it's raining. He then said he had seen plenty of ghosts in his village as a child. For example, when he was 8 years old, at the front entrance of his house, he saw a lady under a tree, and this lady told him to come play with him. She stuck out her tongue and it reached all the way to the ground. Another time, my friend's sister was going to the local market at 3 a.m. to set up her produce stall, because in this country, people get up really early to go purchase vegetables. Right at the crack of dawn, the market opens. Anyway, my friend's sister said that she saw the figure of an old man with only an upper body, but no lower body, and he was just floating and hovering in the air, moving slowly. My friend also said that his deceased father's spirit was looking after his family. There were also enchanted shrines at the entrance of the property that had been strengthened by various local protection spells. So that was why the ghost, could not enter our property, and why the ghost was on the neighbor's side of the fence and had been the whole time, and not our side. And also, before I forget, another incident that... So, what I told you before about the lady with the long tongue and the floating the floating figure of an old man, that didn't happen to me. I just heard this secondhand. But what did happen to me was that the ghost that I saw between the tractor and the fence that night, that I saw with my own eyes 3 times. So I knew I was not seeing things. I was not hallucinating. Anyway, I meant. See, I keep thinking of different things, and I just say great and cool and gruel. Just like gruel. That's like what she said in Mean Girls. The Candy Stanton character. Anyway, some of you might be too young to know what I'm talking about, but Mean Girls, 2004, it's a good movie. Anyway, so I tend to go on segues, and anyway, back to what I was talking about. So another time, my friend said that his dead aunt, his aunt died, and then her ghost wandered the village, asking everyone, if they had seen her dead son. So, and I also heard other scary stories, other ghost stories from his other sister. He has many sisters. My point is that I was a baby compared to them, meaning that it was my first time seeing something. I was a virgin in terms of supernatural experiences. I was a supernatural virgin, essentially. But they, my friend and members of his family, had seen many ghosts all the time. So to them, there was nothing new. But to me, it was earth-shattering, game-changing, groundbreaking, and it really jolted me and triggered a desire to learn more about what it was that I had seen, and to explore what is beyond this world. Because what I saw, that was definitely something supernatural, so it was a ghost. So this proves to me that there are things out there that are beyond the natural realm, that there must be a life after death, that there must be other realms, other dimensions. And that makes perfect sense to me. So anyway, getting back to a bit about the details. about the ghost that I had seen. So, as I mentioned, it was the first time in my life that I had ever seen anything remotely supernatural. I can't be 100% sure about what it was, but I am 100% sure that it was not a man, a living man, or a woman, or human, and it was not any natural animal on our planet. It felt very supernatural and paranormal. I'm certain it was not human for two reasons. The awkward position it was standing in. It was sandwiched between a tractor on one side and the fence on the other, so no human would want to stand there at midnight. And the fact that it did not move or turn to look at me when I shone a flashlight in its face 3 times, because any human would. Any human would turn to look at who the hell is shining me in the eyes, in the face with a flashlight, right? Essentially, it looked like a mannequin wrapped in shrouds. And here are some more reasons. I mean, someone pointed out that it could have been a scarecrow, and here are some more reasons I don't think it was a scarecrow. It was gone the next morning when I woke up, so why would the neighbor remove the scarecrow in the morning? Wouldn't he want the scarecrow to be there all day to scare away the pests and birds? Number 2, I don't remember the neighbor having placed a scarecrow there earlier that day. There was no garden or crops nearby that needed protection, so this was our residence and the neighbor's residence and not the farm. Number 3, the cloth resembled death shrouds. Number 4, the dog is a very important character in this little play here, in this little incident. Why did the dog suddenly notice it at midnight? Why didn't it start barking at 11 p.m. at the same time that it saw the passerby pass by our locked gates? The dog barking at 12 midnight suggests to me that the ghost had suddenly appeared, and that triggered the dog's senses. How likely is it that the neighbor, even if it was a scarecrow, how likely is it that the neighbor placed the scarecrow in such an awkward position between the tractor and the fence right at midnight? Like, what's the point of placing it there at midnight at that time? That defies logic and reason. So that's why I can rule it out. It was not a scarecrow. Unlikely. All right. And I should also add that my friend's house faces a ditch, and he told me that lots of people died there during a tragic event in his country's history. So their bodies had been thrown randomly and haphazardly into the ditch without a proper burial. So maybe it's one of the vengeful, aggrieved spirits. Maybe that was what I had seen. Also, I want to point out, in the Chinese calendar and our hours of the day, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is the Zi hour, and we call it Zi Si. And that time, those 2 hours are the most yin of the entire day, and therefore, ghosts and other supernatural creatures are most likely to appear between the hours of 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So I'm not surprised that my first supernatural encounter happened right at midnight. In any case, this supernatural encounter led me onto the path of spirituality and spiritual development. It was the catalyst of my spiritual awakening. Feel free to leave all your comments below. If you have had any supernatural encounters, please write them down. I'm very curious about them. All right, this has been your Master GongSun. Keep following the Tao.